Mummy is very sick, so I came to sell my toys to buy medicine." What the CEO did next shocked everyone. The morning light warmed the steps of Wellington Industries, a towering skyscraper of steel and glass in the heart of downtown. People in expensive suits passed briskly, their eyes fixed ahead, their hands clutching coffee cups and briefcases. Among them sat a little girl, no older than 7, with tangled hair and a faded yellow dress. She was small, almost invisible amid the chaos, but her presence told a story louder than words. A worn pink blanket was laid out in front of her, and on it, she had carefully arranged her most treasured possessions: a one-eyed teddy bear, a frayed princess doll, and 3 plastic dinosaurs whose paint had faded with time. Emma. That was her name. Her small hands trembled slightly as she picked up each toy and displayed it to the stream of strangers. Her voice, soft and unsure, barely rose above the city's hum. "Would you like to buy a toy?" she asked quietly. "They're really good. I only need enough money for my mummy's medicine." No one stopped. Few glanced down, but most walked past without a word, too busy or too indifferent to notice the desperation behind the little girl's hopeful eyes. Emma had chosen her location with care. Her mother once told her, "If anyone has money, it's the people who work in those tall, shiny buildings." And Wellington Industries was the tallest, shiniest one she could find. She had walked 12 blocks from her apartment, carrying the heavy bag of toys and the pink blanket, driven not by hunger or greed, but by something far heavier: the need to save her mother. Inside the skyscraper, on the 42nd floor, Marcus Wellington stood in front of his office window, scanning through a stack of quarterly reports with mechanical efficiency. At 53, he was a commanding presence in the corporate world, a man whose decisions shaped industries and whose name inspired both admiration and fear. His corner office was a symbol of his success: sleek leather furniture, award plaques, an untouched cup of coffee that had gone cold on his desk. As Marcus turned to check the time before his morning meeting, something outside caught his eye: a flicker of movement on the marble steps below. He stepped closer to the window and skewed. "A child. A child." He leaned forward. "Yes, a little girl sitting alone on the steps." From this height, she was no more than a blur of yellow and pink, but there was no mistaking what she was doing. She was speaking to passersby, holding something up in her small hands. "Toys." Marcus frowned. He reached for his desk phone, ready to call security, but stopped. His hand hovered above the receiver. Something about the girl's body language, her persistence in the face of rejection, stirred something in him he hadn't felt in years. He watched as she spoke to a woman in a grey coat, offering a teddy bear with one missing eye. The woman shook her head and walked away. Marcus set the phone down. "Margaret," he called to his assistant, stepping into the hallway. "Cancel my 10 o'clock. "Of course, sir. Everything all right? I'm going out. I'll be back shortly." The elevator ride down felt unusually long. As the numbers ticked toward the ground floor, Marcus found himself thinking about his daughter, Charlotte, now a teenager at a private school across town. She had everything: a full-time nanny, the best tutors, summer camps in Europe. And yet, she'd never had to sell her toys to buy medicine. When the elevator doors opened, Marcus stepped out and crossed the marble lobby, his polished shoes echoing across the floor. The doorman started to greet him, but Marcus was already pushing through the glass doors. Outside, the morning was crisp and bright. He approached the girl slowly, watching as she picked up a plastic dinosaur and offered it to a passing man, who didn't even slow down. Then she noticed him. She looked up, her eyes large and cautious. She scanned his suit, his tie, the expensive watch on his wrist. Everything about him said he was important, but when he spoke, his voice was gentle. "Hello there," he said. "I'm Marcus. What's your name?" The girl hesitated, then answered, "Emma." There was a pause. Then, with practiced determination, she lifted her chin and straightened her shoulders. "Would you like to buy a toy?" she asked. "They're really good toys. I only need a little money for my mama's medicine." The words landed like a punch to Marcus's chest. He knelt down slowly, ignoring the discomfort of concrete beneath his knees. His $1,000 suit wrinkled as he met Emma's gaze. "Tell me about your mama," he said. And just like that, the walls Emma had built around her heart crumbled. Words tumbled out in a rush about her mama's cough that wouldn't go away, about how she couldn't clean the office buildings anymore because she got too tired, about the doctor at the clinic who said they needed a different kind of medicine. One that costs too much. The free pills don't work, Emma said, holding up her teddy bear. But the new ones might. I'm trying to help. Marcus swallowed hard. His throat burned. This bear, she said, lifting Mr. Buttons carefully. He used to talk, but his batteries ran out. Maybe your little girl would like him. Something broke open in Marcus's chest, something he'd buried long ago beneath boardrooms and balance sheets. He took a breath, then another. Emma, he said gently, I'd like to help. But first, can you tell me where you live? Her face tightened. She looked unsure. My mama says not to talk to strangers. Marcus nodded. She's right. That's smart. But I promise, I only want to help. I won't come inside. Just tell me so I can bring you something. She paused, then reached into her bag and pulled out a crumpled envelope. In big, childlike letters, she had written the address in crayon. Marcus took it with trembling hands. He read it once, then again. 1247 Maple Street, apartment 3B. His heart stopped. Those numbers. That street. It couldn't be Emma, he said slowly, voice suddenly unsteady. What's your mama's full name? Maria Rodriguez, she replied, proudly. Marcus stared at her, and in that moment, his world began to unravel. Marcus stared at the crumpled piece of paper in his hand. His breath caught in his throat. 1247 Maple Street, apartment 3B. A number and street burned into his memory, a street he hadn't driven down in 2 decades. The girl's words echoed. Maria Rodriguez. It couldn't be. It was impossible. Emma, he said carefully. How long has your mama been sick? Emma fidgeted with the edge of her dress. A few weeks. He tries to act like she's okay, but I know she's not. She sleeps a lot now, and sometimes she forgets to eat. Marcus felt something shift inside him, an emotion he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Not guilt, not just sorrow, something deeper, something that whispered, you know this woman. Would she be home now? He asked gently. Emma nodded. She's probably still sleeping. The medicine makes her tired, but she always wakes up if someone knocks. Marcus hesitated, only a second before helping Emma pack her toys back into the grocery bag. He folded the pink blanket carefully, his hands trembling slightly. He couldn't explain why, not yet, but some part of him already knew that this moment was going to change everything. As they walked toward his car, Marcus caught his reflection in the glass door of his building. A powerful CEO, a multimillionaire, a man who made headlines and moved markets. But behind that polished image was a shadow, a 25-year-old version of himself who had once stood on a cracked sidewalk on Maple Street, begging someone not to walk away. He hadn't thought about Maria Rodriguez in years, but now her daughter was sitting in the back seat of his luxury car, humming softly to herself as they drove through the city. Emma talked as they passed the park, pointing out the playground she used to visit when her mother was well enough to walk her there. She spoke with hope, not sadness, as if she truly believed her small act of kindness could fix everything. Marcus gripped the steering wheel tighter. He wasn't sure what scared him more, the growing suspicion in his gut, or the fact that the timeline made perfect sense. They arrived at a crumbling apartment complex that stood in sharp contrast to Marcus's world of penthouses and glass towers. He parked in the visitor lot and followed Emma up a flight of chipped concrete stairs to the 3rd floor. She didn't knock. She simply pushed the door open and called softly, Mama, I'm home, and I brought someone. Inside, the apartment was dim and quiet. A small fan rattled in the corner. The furniture was old, but clean. A single photo sat framed on the windowsill, a woman with long dark hair and warm eyes, holding a baby in her arms. A moment later, that woman appeared in the hallway. Maria, older, thinner, paler than Marcus remembered, but undeniably her. Her steps were slow, her face drawn from weeks of illness, but when her eyes met his, the air seemed to disappear from the room. For a second, they just stared, and then Maria gasped, clutching the doorframe for balance. Marcus, she whispered. Marcus stepped forward, his voice catching in his throat. Maria. She instinctively pulled Emma close, a protective reflex that hadn't faded with time or sickness. What are you doing here? Emma's voice broke the silence. Mama, do you know him? He helped me with the toys. He said he wanted to meet you. Maria's eyes filled with tears, not from joy, but fear. She looked at Marcus again, her lips trembling. The secret she had guarded for 7 years, the truth she had buried beneath survival and sacrifice, now hung between them. Fragile, an explosive dot. She turned to Emma. "Sweetheart, why don't you go wash your hands and change clothes? We'll talk to our guest in a moment, okay?" Emma obeyed, skipping off to the bedroom with her bag of toys in hand. The door clicked shut behind her. And for the first time in 20 years, Marcus and Maria were alone. He sat down heavily in the single-worn armchair. The room was painfully small. It smelled faintly of antiseptic and laundry detergent. A calendar, with medical appointment reminders, hung crookedly on the wall. "I didn't know," Marcus said finally, "when Emma told me her mother's name. When I saw the address, I thought my heart was going to stop." Maria sat on the couch across from him, her body tense. "Everyone thought I was dead, Marcus. After the accident, I woke up in the hospital with no memory, not of you, not of anything." She looked down at her hands. "By the time I remembered who I was, you were married." Marcus closed his eyes. He remembered the accident, the obituary, the funeral notice. He had searched, but not hard enough. And when the reports said there were no survivors, he had believed them. "You changed your name," he said softly. "Maria Gonzalez died in that accident," she said. "Maria Rodriguez was born in that hospital bed, with no family, no past, and no reason to look for the man who moved on so quickly." "That's not fair," Marcus said quietly. Maria's voice cracked. "Life isn't fair, Marcus." She reached into a drawer and pulled out a folded piece of paper. She handed it to him with trembling fingers. He opened it. "A birth certificate. Emma Rodriguez, father, unknown." "I never put your name," Maria said. "Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't want you to feel forced. I wanted her to have a father who chose her, not one who was trapped." Marcus stared at the paper. The pieces fell into place with terrifying precision. Her age, her eyes, her chin, that tilt of the head she did when thinking, just like he used to. Emma wasn't just any child he'd found on the steps of his company. She was his daughter, and Maria, the woman he once loved more than anything, had raised her alone. He looked up at Maria, whose face was now streaked with silent tears. "What do you want from me?" he asked. Maria looked toward the closed bedroom door, where Emma was now humming softly to herself. "I want you to get to know her," she said, "to love her the way she deserves to be loved." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And when I'm gone, I want you to be her father." Marcus sat in stunned silence, Maria's words echoing in his ears. "And when I'm gone, I want you to be her father." He glanced toward the closed bedroom door, behind which the little girl who had unknowingly flipped his entire world upside down was singing softly, her voice filled with the innocence of a child who didn't yet know how short childhood might be. "Maria," Marcus said, his voice thick with emotion. "What do you mean, when you're gone?" Maria looked away, her eyes fixed on a worn spot in the carpet. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in a quiet, measured voice, she explained. "Coughing, it wasn't just an infection. It's cancer, pancreatic. They caught it too late. The medicine helps with the pain, slows it a little, but they've given me 6 months, maybe less." Marcus felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. He had faced boardroom collapses, economic crises, even the pain of a failed marriage. But nothing compared to the weight of this. Maria, dying. Emma, about to lose everything. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped tightly. "Why didn't you call me? When you remembered, why didn't you tell me?" "I would have what?" Maria interrupted, her voice sharper now. "Left your perfect life, divorced your perfect wife, taken in a janitor's daughter you didn't know existed. I saw your wedding announcement in the paper. You moved on." Marcus flinched. "That marriage didn't last. I'm not the man I used to be." "No," Maria said softly, "you're not. And I'm not the girl you left behind." The silence stretched between them again, thick with the weight of what could have been. Finally, Maria stood slowly, painfully, and walked to a nearby drawer. She pulled out a small envelope, worn and creased. She held it for a moment, before handing it to him. "I wrote these for her," she said, "letters. For each birthday, I knew I wouldn't be here for her. I didn't want her to grow up without knowing I tried, without knowing who I was." Marcus took the envelope with reverence, nodding slowly. "I'll give them to her," he promised. Maria looked at him then, really looked. The man she had once loved, the father of her child. And now, the only hope Emma had left. "I don't have time to teach you how to be a father, Marcus," she said, "but she's worth it. Every moment. She's kind, brave. She believes that world can still be good." Marcus nodded. Because of you. Maria's voice cracked. Promise me she'll stay that way. Promise me she won't grow up bitter or broken. That you'll protect her, even after I'm gone. I promise, Marcus said. On everything I have, everything I am. Just then, the bedroom door creaked open, and Emma appeared in the doorway, now in clean clothes, and holding Mr. Buttons. In one hand. Is everything okay? She asked, eyes darting between the two adults. Maria forced a smile. Everything's fine, sweetheart. Come here. Emma ran to her mother's side. Maria kissed the top of her head and hugged her tightly, her arms trembling with effort. Marcus stood, looking at both of them, this woman he'd loved and lost, and the daughter he never knew he had. Something inside him changed in that moment, a shift so deep it couldn't be explained in words. This wasn't just about responsibility anymore. This was about love, about family, about redemption. That night, Marcus didn't return to his office. He stayed. He made dinner from what little they had in the kitchen. He helped Emma with her math homework. He carried Maria's tea from the stove to the couch when her legs gave out. He read a bedtime story to Emma, who nestled into his side as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and when she looked up at him, eyes wide and hopeful, and said, "I like having you here," something in Marcus's chest broke wide open. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "I like being here too." Later, when Maria had fallen asleep and Emma was tucked in bed beside Mr. Buttons, Marcus stepped out into the hallway and sat alone on the stairs. His phone buzzed. Dozens of missed calls, emails, calendar alerts, meetings cancelled, deals paused. For once, none of it mattered. He stared at the stars above the city skyline and made a silent vow. He would not lose them. Again, not Maria, not Emma, not this second chance. Marcus barely slept that night. He sat in his car outside the apartment until the sky began to turn from black to deep gray. The weight of what he had learned pressed against his chest like a boulder. He had a daughter, a bright, brave, 7-year-old girl with big brown eyes, a one-eyed teddy bear, and a heart so selfless she was willing to give away everything she loved to save her mother. And that girl had no idea he was her father. By mid-morning, Marcus was back inside his office at Wellington Industries, but nothing felt the same. The floor-to-ceiling windows, the sleek desk, the impressive skyline view, it all seemed hollow. He couldn't concentrate, he couldn't pretend. He opened the small envelope Maria had given him and carefully removed the stack of letters inside. Each one was labeled in Maria's handwriting. Emma, 8th birthday. Emma, 9th birthday. They went all the way up to 18. Marcus didn't open them. Not yet. He ran his fingers over the delicate paper. Maria had prepared for a future she knew. She wouldn't be part of her strength. Her foresight crushed him, and yet it made him more determined than ever. He buzzed his assistant. "Margaret, clear my schedule for the rest of the week." There was a long pause on the other end. "Sir, you heard me." "Yes, Mr. Wellington." He leaned back in his chair, stared out the window, and began planning. If Maria had 6 months, maybe less, he would use every moment of that time to help, to support her, to learn everything about Emma, to earn their trust, their love, their forgiveness, and maybe to make up for the past. The days that followed moved both quickly and delicately. Marcus showed up at Maria's apartment every morning. At first, she looked at him with suspicion, unsure whether to accept this version of the man she once knew. But Emma welcomed him without hesitation. To her, Marcus was the kind man who had helped her when no one else would. She didn't question why he kept coming back. He helped her with schoolwork. He made meals. He fixed the leaking faucet in the kitchen that had dripped for 2 years. He cleaned, he read bedtime stories, and quietly, without words, a bond began. Two formed. Emma started calling him Mr. Marcus, then Uncle Marcus, and every time she said his name, something inside him ached because she didn't know. Not yet. He wasn't just some helpful man who appeared on their doorstep. He was her father, her real father, and the longer he stayed silent, the harder it became to find the right moment to say it. One afternoon, as they were walking back from the pharmacy, Emma turned to him suddenly. "Uncle Marcus." "Yes, sweetheart. Did you have a daughter, too?" The question caught him off guard. "I do," he said. "Her name is Charlotte. She's 10. She lives with her mum in California. Do you think she'd like me?" He smiled. "I think she'd love you." Emma grinned and skipped ahead, her braids bouncing. "Maybe we can all play together someday." Marcus watched her and thought, Someday needs to come soon. That evening, after Emma had gone to bed, Maria pulled Marcus aside. She looked tired, more tired than usual. The color had drained from her face, and she struggled to stay on her feet. "Marcus," she said, "we can't keep this up." He frowned. "What do you mean?" "She doesn't know who you are, and every day that you come here, every time you read her a bedtime story, or help her with homework, it gets harder, for both of us." "I know," he said quietly. Maria sank into the couch. "You need to tell her." He nodded. "I will. I just don't want to scare her. I want it to be right." Maria looked at him, eyes full of sorrow. "There won't be a perfect moment. Trust me, I've waited for one for years." He reached out, took her hand. It was cold. "We'll tell her together," he said. She didn't answer, but she didn't pull away either. The next afternoon, Marcus arrived with something special. A framed photo of Charlotte when she was 7, her front teeth missing, her eyes shining. "I thought maybe Emma would like to see this," he said. Maria smiled faintly. "That's a big step." Marcus looked over at Emma, who was coloring quietly on the floor. "I think she's ready." Maria nodded. "Then tomorrow, after dinner, we'll tell her everything." That night, Marcus sat in his car a little longer than usual before driving away. He watched the light from Emma's bedroom window, and for the first time since meeting her, he felt what it meant to be a father. The next day passed slowly. Marcus spent the morning at his office, unable to focus. His phone buzzed with updates from board members, stock analysts, and investors, all of whom had questions, demands, deadlines, but none of it mattered. At exactly 5 o'clock, he left the building, ignoring the puzzled glances from his staff. He drove straight to the small apartment on Maple Street, a nervous weight sitting heavy in his chest. Inside, Emma was already waiting. She had dressed up, wearing the same yellow dress from the day they met. Her hair was braided, a little uneven, but carefully done. "Uncle Marcus, look," she beamed, holding up a crayon drawing. It showed 3 people, a woman with long brown hair, a little girl, and a man in a suit holding hands beneath a rainbow. Marcus swallowed hard. "That's beautiful, Emma," he said. "Is that us?" She nodded. "I added you, because you're part of our family now." Maria stood nearby, silent, watching him with eyes full of meaning. Dinner was simple, soup and crackers, but Emma chatted happily the whole time, telling Marcus about a story she had written in school. Maria was quieter than usual. She pushed her food around on the plate more than she ate. When Emma finished her meal, she leaned back in her chair and looked up at both adults. "You're both acting funny," she said. Maria smiled gently. "We have something important to tell you, sweetheart. Will you come sit with us on the couch?" Emma's brow furrowed. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Marcus said quickly. "Nothing like that." They sat together, the 3 of them, on the old worn couch. Emma curled between them, hugging Mr. Buttons to her chest. The room was quiet now, the soft buzz of the refrigerator the only sound. Maria took a deep breath. "Emma, you know how you've always asked about your daddy?" Emma nodded slowly. "You said he was a good man, just not with us." Maria's voice trembled. "That's true. He was a good man, and he didn't know about you, not until recently." Emma looked confused, glancing between them. "Why didn't he know?" "Because I thought he was gone," Maria said softly, "and by the time I remembered everything, it was too late. He had already built a new life." Emma's eyes narrowed with curiosity. "But you remember now?" "I do," Maria said. Then she turned to Marcus. Marcus looked into Emma's eyes, the same eyes he had unknowingly passed on to her, and felt his heart tighten. "Emma," he said gently, "I'm your father." The words floated in the air like dust in sunlight. Emma blinked. She looked at her mother, then at Marcus, then back again. "No," she said. "You're Uncle Marcus. You help us." Maria pulled her daughter closer. "He is the man who helped us, but he's also your daddy." Marcus leaned forward. "I didn't know, Emma. I didn't know you existed until the day I met you on those steps. But the moment I found out, I wanted to be part of your life." Emma was quiet. Her small fingers clutched Mr. Buttons tighter. "But why weren't you there before?" she whispered. "All my birthdays, all my stories. Mama used to read to me every night, and I'd pretend you were listening to." Maria wiped a tear from her cheek. "He didn't leave us, sweetheart. He didn't even know you were alive." Emma's lower lip trembled. "You promise?" Marcus nodded. "I promise. I missed so much, but I want to be here now, if you'll let me." She didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, she crawled into his lap, laid her head against his chest, and whispered, "I always wanted a daddy." Marcus wrapped his arms around her and buried his face in her hair. "I'm so proud to be yours," he said. Maria turned away, her shoulders shaking silently. She had imagined this moment 1,000 times. And now, watching them together, she knew she had made the right choice, even if her time was running out that night. After Emma had gone to bed, Maria and Marcus sat in the kitchen with mugs of tea between them. Maria's hands trembled slightly as she held hers. "I thought she'd be angry," Maria said. "I thought she'd feel betrayed." "She's stronger than both of us," Marcus replied. Maria looked down. "She's going to need that strength." Marcus looked up sharply. "What do you mean?" Maria hesitated, then said the words she had dreaded for weeks. "The doctors ran more tests." Marcus's stomach dropped. "It's worse?" he asked. Maria nodded. "It's not just months anymore. They think I might have 6 weeks, maybe less." The words knocked the breath from his lungs. He reached across the table and grabbed her hand. "I won't let her go through this alone," he said. "She'll never be alone. I swear to you." Maria looked into his eyes and believed him. The next few days passed in a blur. Maria's strength faded, more quickly than any of them expected. The coughing fits came more often, and sometimes she struggled just to sit up in bed. Her once vibrant energy dimmed into silence. She had to stop walking Emma to the bus, stop cooking, stop fighting, but she never stopped smiling when Emma walked into the room, and Emma, though she didn't say it, knew something was changing. She became more careful with her mother, more attentive. She fluffed her pillows, brought her water, read her bedtime stories instead of the other way around. She never asked how bad it was. She already knew. Marcus rearranged everything. His office was set up remotely. His assistant handled the board. His car remained parked outside the old apartment building on Maple Street. He cooked meals. He handled medicine schedules. He read to Emma, listened to Maria breathe in the dark, and spent long nights staring at the ceiling wondering how life had changed so much in just a matter of weeks. He had money, power, resources, but he couldn't stop this. He could delay pain, buy comfort, but not time. One afternoon, Maria sat propped up in bed, thinner than ever, her hair pulled into a loose bun. Marcus sat beside her, a medical file in his lap, the hospice nurse's number still flashing on his phone screen. "She doesn't deserve this," he said quietly. Maria smiled faintly. "No child does, but she's stronger than she looks." Marcus looked over at her, eyes rimmed red. "You should be in a better place, with better care. I can move you." "No," she said. "Don't take me from her. Let her remember this home, these walls, where she felt safe." He nodded. A long silence passed between them. Then Maria asked, "Have you thought about what you'll say?" After Marcus's throat tightened, "I'll tell her the truth, that you were brave, that you were the best mother a child could ask for, that she is everything you hoped she'd be." Maria's eyes welled with tears. "And the letters?" she asked. "I'll give them to her, every birthday, one at a time." She reached out and took his hand. "She's going to need you, Marcus, more than ever. You have to be her anchor." "I'm not just trusting you with her life," she whispered. "I'm trusting you with her heart." He leaned forward, kissed her forehead, and whispered, "You already have it." That evening, Emma sat on the couch with Marcus, her feet tucked beneath her, Mr. Buttons in her arms. "Is Mummy getting better?" she asked quietly. Marcus hesitated. He had practiced this in his head 100 times. How to say it gently, how to speak with honesty, without shattering her. He turned to her. "Your mummy is very sick, sweetheart, and the doctors are doing everything they can. But," he paused. Emma looked up at him, eyes wide and still. "But we don't know how much time she has left." Emma looked down at Mr. Buttons. "She told me once that sometimes people don't get better, that sometimes love is the medicine we give when the doctors can't fix things." Marcus blinked back tears. "She's right. Then I'll give her lots of love," Emma said softly, "every day." And she did. She brought flowers from the park, drew pictures, sang songs, held her mother's hand for hours without speaking. One night, she crawled into bed beside her and whispered, "I'm not scared, Mummy, because you'll always be part of me." Maria held her close and whispered back, "Always." The decline came fast. Within 2 weeks, Maria could no longer stand on her own. Her voice faded to a whisper. The pain medication dulled her awareness, and her time with Emma became measured in moments, not hours. On her final night, she called for Marcus. He came quickly and sat beside her, holding her hand. "I want her to remember laughter," she said, her voice barely audible. "Not machines, not goodbyes. I promise," he said. Maria's hand tightened in his. "Tell her I loved her, every second, even the ones that hurt. I will." She exhaled a breath. One more. And then, she was gone. The funeral was small, quiet. Emma stood beside Marcus in a black dress, holding his hand. She didn't cry loudly. She didn't scream, but she never let go of him. After the ceremony, they returned to the apartment one last time. The silence in the space was unbearable. Emma walked to her mother's bed, crawled up, and lay there for a long time. Marcus waited. Then finally, she whispered, "I'm ready to go home now." He nodded. Okay, they didn't take much. Just what mattered. Her clothes, her books, Mr. Buttons, and a small wooden box of her mother's keepsakes. When they reached his house, a quiet estate outside the city, Emma looked around, awed by the size and quiet. "This is our house now?" she asked. He knelt beside her. "Yes, yours and mine." "Do I get my own room?" "You get to." He smiled. "But you can sleep in mine if you're scared." She nodded. Then, after a pause, she asked, "Can we still talk about Mummy?" "We'll talk about her every day," he said, "as long as you want." Emma smiled, and for the first time in weeks, she laughed, a soft giggle, as she raced down the hallway toward her new room. And Marcus stood there, quietly amazed. On losing Maria, he had found Emma, and in that child's laughter, he found purpose again. Weeks passed. Emma adjusted to her new life with remarkable grace. The mansion, once cold and sterile, began to feel like a home. Her drawings filled the kitchen walls. Her laughter echoed through the empty hallways. Mr. Buttons had his own seat at the dinner table, and Marcus, who once ruled boardrooms and led multi-million-dollar acquisitions, now spent his mornings braiding Emma's hair and packing her lunch. She called him Dad for the first time on a Thursday. It was quiet, casual. He had handed her a juice box, and she smiled and said, "Thanks, Dad." He froze. She didn't even realize she'd said it. She just walked away, humming to herself. He sat down on the kitchen stool, holding the juice box she had left behind, and cried for 10 minutes, not because he was sad, but because he finally felt whole. One evening, while organizing old papers in the home office, Marcus came across Maria's wooden keepsake box. He hadn't opened it since the day they left the apartment. Now, with Emma asleep upstairs and the house quiet, he lifted the lid. Inside was simple things: a photo of Emma as a baby, a pressed flower, a necklace with a broken clasp, and a folded legal envelope. He opened it. Inside was a handwritten letter, not to Emma, but to Marcus. "If you're reading this, it means you kept your promise. Thank you. But there's something I need you to know, something I never told you." His eyes scanned faster, heartbeat rising. "Before I remembered you, before Emma, there was someone else. His name was Vance Talbot. He was my landlord. At first he was kind, offered me help, food, protection. But when I got sick, he tried to take Emma, said I owed him more than rent. I fought him off, moved apartments, changed my number. But he always threatened he'd come back. If anything happens to me, make sure he never touches her. Protect her, please." Marcus's hand shook. Vance Talbot. A predator, a parasite, someone who saw Maria's vulnerability and tried to claim it was never his. Marcus immediately dialed his head of security. "Run a full background check on a man named Vance Talbot," he said. "Send me everything." Within the hour, a file was delivered to his inbox. Multiple eviction filings, harassment complaints, a sealed case involving a minor, dismissed for lack of evidence, and a recent lawsuit dismissed by a woman, claiming emotional abuse. Marcus's stomach turned, and then, something worse. A photo, Vance, standing beside a woman at a gas station, and behind him, in the blurry corner, a familiar figure, Emma. It was recent, just days ago. Marcus's blood went cold. The next morning, Marcus drove Emma to school himself, staying parked outside, long after she'd gone inside. He spoke with the principal, requested extra security, informed them that Emma was to be escorted directly to and from the front gate. No exceptions. Then he called his legal team. He wanted restraining orders, surveillance, a private investigator. He would burn his empire to the ground before letting someone like Vance come anywhere near her. That night, Emma noticed the tension. "Are you mad at me?" she asked at bedtime. "No, "Sweetheart, never." "Then why are you sad?" He knelt beside her bed and smoothed her blanket. "Sometimes grown-ups worry too much," he said, "but I promise, you're safe, and I will always make sure you are." She nodded, but didn't smile. She could feel it, the shift in the air, the shadow creeping back. The next day, Marcus got a call from a number he didn't recognize. He let it go to voicemail, but the message chilled him. A slow, gravelly voice spoke through the speaker. "She's not yours, Marcus. You bought your way into her life, but blood isn't everything. Maria owed me. Emma was the collateral. You think a big house and money make you a father. This isn't over." Marcus stood frozen. For the first time since Maria died, he felt helpless. He had kept his promise. He had become Emma's father in every way that mattered. But now, someone was trying to rewrite that story, to unmake the fragile piece they had found. That night, he walked into Emma's room and watched her sleep. Mr. Buttons rested against her cheek. Her chest rose and fell with each peaceful breath, and Marcus made another promise. Vance Talbot had no idea who he was dealing with, because Marcus hadn't just become a father, he had become a protector, and no one was going to take Emma from him. The next morning, Marcus was already dressed before sunrise. He wasn't just a CEO anymore. He was a father on a mission. By 6:30 a.m., he was in a private conference call with his top legal counsel, security advisors, and to investigators he trusted more than anyone in the world. "I want everything on Vance Talbot," Marcus said. Coldly, "I want his known associates, finances, debts, his habits. I want to know where he sleeps and where he drinks his coffee." One of the investigators cleared his throat. "We've already tracked his last 3 known addresses. He's bounced between short-term rentals and motels. No job, no steady income, but he has friends in places that keep people like him out of jail." Marcus's jaw tightened. "What about leverage?" "His record is messy," the attorney said, "but not criminal, at least not on paper." That lawsuit from 2021 was quietly dropped. The woman vanished 3 months later. Marcus already knew what that meant. Vance wasn't just a ghost. He was dangerous. He hung up the call with one final order. "If he comes near Emma once, even within 50 feet, I want him arrested, and I want everything on him sent to the DA's office before the sun sets." Later that morning, Marcus stood in the kitchen, pouring juice into a glass when Emma walked in wearing her school uniform and rubbing her eyes. "You're up early," she said. "So are you." She nodded. "I had a weird dream." "Good, weird or bad weird?" Emma looked down. "I don't know. There was a man I didn't know, and he was trying to take Mr. Buttons." Marcus crouched beside her and placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "Listen to me," he said firmly but kindly. "If anyone ever talks to you that you don't know anyone, you go straight to a teacher, or to me. No talking, no answering questions. Okay?" Emma nodded slowly. "Is something wrong?" Marcus forced a smile. "No, I just want to keep you extra safe." But behind that smile was a storm. That afternoon, while Emma was at school, Marcus received a file from one of his private investigators. It included surveillance photos from 3 days ago, blurry, zoomed images of Vance standing across the street from Emma's school. Watching, waiting. Marcus had seen enough. He met with the judge in private chambers by that evening. His lawyers filed for a full protective order, not just for Marcus but for Emma, too. The judge read the supporting documentation, the history, the pattern of predation. He signed it immediately. By the time the sun set, an official restraining order was in effect. Vance couldn't come within 300 feet of Emma, her school, or Marcus's property. And still, Marcus didn't rest. He called in favors, discreetly, quietly. He contacted a high-profile journalist he trusted and gave her a summary of Vance's pattern, just enough to raise flags without making Emma's name public. If Vance wanted attention, Marcus would give him the worst kind. Public exposure. He wasn't just protecting a child. He was defending a legacy. The following weekend, Marcus took Emma to visit Charlotte, his older daughter, at her private school across the state. It was something he had promised weeks ago. Emma was nervous, clutching her drawing pad tightly as they drove through the countryside. "Do you think she'd like me?" she asked. "I know she will." When they arrived, Charlotte, now 12, stepped off the stone steps of the school building, her backpack slung over one shoulder. She looked skeptical at first. But Emma stepped forward, held out her drawing, and said shyly, "I made this for you." Charlotte unfolded the paper. It showed 2 girls, smiling, standing under a tree with their arms linked. She looked at Marcus, then at Emma, that then smiled. "Want to see my dorm?" Charlotte asked. Emma's eyes lit up. "Can I?" And just like that, the wall between their worlds crumbled. Marcus watched them disappear down the hall, side by side, chatting like sisters who had always known each other. And maybe, in a way, they had. That night, back home, Emma fell asleep with her head in Marcus's lap as he read her one of Maria's favorite stories. He watched her chest rise and fall, her fingers still tangled in Mr. Button's fur, and he realized this wasn't just about defense anymore. It was about giving her a life she never had, one filled with security, but also joy, one where she wasn't just protected from the bad, but surrounded by the good. Marcus kissed her forehead and whispered, "You're safe now." But outside the quiet house, a shadow lingered. Vance had been served. And he wasn't taking it well. It started with a voicemail. Just after midnight, Marcus's phone buzzed. He nearly ignored it, but something told him to check. It was Vance. The message was short, angry, dripping with venom. "You think some fancy judge can keep me away? You stole from me, Marcus. You think she's yours, but she ain't. You're gonna wish you never opened that door." Marcus sat up in bed, the glow from the screen casting long shadows on the walls. He replayed the message twice. Then again, he called his head of security immediately. "Doubled the team on the house perimeter. I want full camera coverage by sunrise, and notify local authorities. This isn't just harassment anymore. He's escalating." By morning, Marcus stood at the gate to his property, watching as technicians installed new motion sensor lights and reinforced the locks on every door and window. Emma watched from the upstairs window, her face pressed to the glass. She didn't ask questions anymore. She didn't have to. The fear in her eyes was enough. 2 days later, Marcus arrived home from a meeting downtown, one of the rare times he'd left. Emma's sighed in weeks, but something felt wrong. The front gate was cracked open. The sensor light near the garage had been tampered with, and when he stepped inside, the door was unlocked. Marcus's breath caught Emma. He called out, panic rising. "No answer." He rushed through the house, checking every room, every closet, nothing. Finally, he found her sitting on the floor of the study, clutching Mr. Button's in one hand and a piece of paper in the other. She looked up at him, eyes wide. "Daddy, someone was here." Marcus's heart dropped. He rushed to her and scooped her into his arms. "Did he touch you? Did he say anything?" She shook her head. "He left this." Marcus took the paper. It wasn't a note. It was a photograph, an old one, a picture of Maria, young, smiling, holding baby Emma outside their old building. Written across the photo in red ink were 3 words. "She was mine." Marcus's hands clenched. This wasn't just about control anymore. It was about obsession. Vance hadn't let go of Maria, even in death. And now, he had transferred that obsession to Emma. It had to end. Marcus made a decision that night. No more waiting, no more hiding behind restraining orders and camera feeds. He would face Vance himself. The next morning, Marcus had his investigator. Bait, the trap, a neutral location, a false pretense, money, to make it all go away. They arranged to meet in a dusty parking lot near an abandoned strip mall. Somewhere cameras could be placed without alerting Vance. Marcus arrived alone. He stepped out of the car in a dark coat, unarmed, but with a fire in his eyes that no amount of money could cool. Vance was already waiting, leaning against the hood of a rusted truck, cigarette in hand, smirking. Well, he said. "Daddy of the year." Marcus didn't flinch. "You've made your point," he said coldly. "Now you're going to listen to mine." Vance laughed. "Or what? You'll have me arrested again. File another piece of paper." "No," Marcus said. "I'll end you. Legally, financially, publicly." Vance narrowed his eyes. "I know everything. The sealed case. The woman who disappeared. The fake names you've used to get housing. You're a stain, and I have the bleach. You rich types think you can scare people with words." "No," Marcus said. "But I can scare them with headlines. You try to get near Emma again, and I will turn your life into a courtroom exhibit. Every job you apply for, every landlord you lie to, every woman you manipulate, they'll all know who you are. You'll never breathe in peace again." Vance stepped forward, fists clenched. "She was mine." Marcus stepped forward too, face inches from Vance's. "She was Maria's, and Maria chose me. Emma chose me, and now the law stands with me." Behind them, hidden in a parked van. A camera captured every word, every threat, every confession. It was over before Vance even realized it had begun. Moments later, unmarked police cars pulled in from both sides. Vance tried to run. He didn't make it. 5 feet. Back at the estate, Emma waited in the living room, sitting on the rug with a puzzle half done in front of her. When Marcus walked in, she looked up. "Is he gone?" she asked softly. Marcus nodded. "He'll never bother you again." She stood, then walked to him, and without a word, she wrapped her arms around his waist and hugged him tightly. "I knew you'd protect me," she whispered. Marcus held her close, his voice barely a breath. "I always will." Spring arrived quietly. The air was softer now, the skies more forgiving. Emma's laughter returned to the garden, where Marcus had built her a small swing. Beneath the oak tree, it was the same tree she had drawn months ago, the one she'd imagined in her sketch of her and Charlotte together. But this time, it wasn't a drawing, it was real. Charlotte came to visit every other weekend. The girls played, bickered, and shared secrets like they'd known each other forever. They weren't half-sisters by blood, they were sisters by choice. And Marcus, he finally looked like a man at peace. He still ran a company, still met with investors and reviewed reports, but his real job now was packing lunchboxes, attending school plays, and sitting in the front row when Emma read aloud at her class's poetry day. One Friday afternoon, after picking her up from school, Marcus noticed Emma staring out the car window, unusually quiet. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Tomorrow's my birthday." He smiled. "Of course, I didn't forget. You think I didn't see that glittery 8 crown you hid under your bed?" She laughed softly, then went quiet again. "Do you think Mummy will be proud of me?" Marcus took her hand as they stopped at a red light. "She'd be more than proud," he said. "She'd be amazed." Emma turned toward him. "Can I open the first letter?" He blinked. Maria's letters. He had kept them in a small locked drawer in his bedroom, 10 sealed envelopes, one for each birthday, all written in Maria's careful, looping handwriting. He hesitated for just a second, then said, "Let's open it together." That evening, Marcus and Emma sat on the back porch. A soft breeze carried the scent of lilacs through the air. The sky was streaked with gold and lavender. Marcus held the first letter in his hands. The envelope said, "To my Emma on your 8th birthday." He handed it to her. She opened it slowly, carefully, then unfolded the single sheet of paper and began to read aloud. Her voice small but steady. "My sweet girl, if you're reading this, it means I'm not there to kiss your forehead or tie your shoes or tell you how proud I am of you. But oh, how proud I am. You are 8 now. That means you're braver than you were at 7, but still curious like a 6-year-old. I hope you're still drawing. I hope Mr. Buttons is still nearby. I hope the stars still make you smile. I want you to know something very important. You were never alone. Even in the hard days, there were angels all around you. Some of them look like people. One of them probably looks like the man reading this with you now. Trust him. Let him love you. He carries the part of me that never got to say goodbye. And when you miss me, look in the mirror. That little sparkle in your eyes, that's me, forever and always. Happy birthday, my love. Be wild. Be kind. Be you." Mummy Emma folded the letter slowly and held it to her chest. "I miss her," she whispered. Marcus pulled her into his arms. "I know," he said softly, "but she's still here, every day." They sat there until the sun dipped below the trees. The next morning, the house filled with the smell of pancakes and birthday candles. Emma opened gifts, books, a new backpack, a sparkly bicycle with a pink ribbon. Charlotte arrived with cupcakes and glitter glue. Even Margaret, Marcus's longtime assistant, showed up with a handmade card and a stuffed unicorn. But the real gift, the one that mattered most, wasn't wrapped in paper. It was safety. It was laughter. It was knowing she was loved, and that she would never again have to sell her toys on a city sidewalk to save someone she loved, because now she had someone fighting for her. Every single day. That night, after the party, Marcus tucked her into bed. "Thank you," she said sleepily. "For what?" "For staying." He smiled, brushing a lock of hair from her forehead. "I wouldn't be anywhere else." Her eyes closed. She rolled toward Mr. Buttons and held him close. "I think Mummy chose you," she murmured. Marcus looked at the moonlight spilling across her blanket and felt his throat tighten. "I think she did too." And for the first time in a long, long time, Marcus Wellington didn't feel like a millionaire. He felt like a father, a real one, the kind who doesn't walk away, the kind who stays. After the funeral, Marcus and Emma returned home to a quieter life, but the shadows of Maria's past hadn't fully lifted. A few days later, Marcus opened Maria's old keepsake box. Amid drawings, photos, and letters, he found one addressed to him. "If you're reading this, it means you kept your promise, but I need you to know something I never told you. Before I remembered you, before Emma, there was someone else. My landlord, Vance Talbot. At first, he was kind, but when I got sick, he tried to take Emma. I ran, I changed apartments. He threatened to come back. If anything happens to me, protect her." Marcus's stomach twisted. That night, he tightened home security, contacted legal counsel, and filed for a restraining order. No threats had come yet, but the message in Maria's letter was clear. 2 weeks passed, then it happened. A letter arrived in the mailbox, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Maria, years ago, holding baby Emma, outside their old building. 3 words were scrawled in red ink across the photo. "She was mine." Marcus's jaw clenched. He didn't panic. He prepared. He met with lawyers, reconfirmed the protective order, installed extra cameras, and posted private security at the gate. That night, he sat with Emma as she colored by the fireplace. "Do you feel safe here?" he asked gently. Emma looked up, puzzled. "Of course, you're here." He smiled, a fragile smile, full of weight. "I always will be." A few days later, Marcus received a call from his security team. Vance had been spotted lingering near Emma's school, then driving off. That was all Marcus needed. He filed a formal complaint and pushed for swift legal action. The restraining order became a full injunction. The judge didn't hesitate, and just like that, Vance vanished again. Not because he had a change of heart, because Marcus made sure there was nowhere left for him to hide. In the weeks that followed, the tension slowly faded. Emma returned, laughter Marcus to peace, but neither forgot the promise that tied them all together: to protect, to remember, to never let love be taken away again.